The April 5th, 2017 Municipality of Anchorage Platting Board meeting will now come to order. May we have roll call?
Mr. Young?
Present.
Mr. Evanson?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Ms. Enix? Here. Mr. Porter?
Here.
Mr. Cross?
Here.
Mr. Seward?
Here.
Ms. Ritz? Here. Ms. Welton? Thank you.
And we have a quorum, so we'll now move to action summaries. May I have a motion to approve the action summary for March 1st, 2017? Kevin Cross moves and Valerie Ritz seconds. Is there anyone opposed to accepting the summary of action? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from Wednesday, March 1st, 2017? Dan Young moves and Kevin Cross seconds. Are there any requests for amendments? Any corrections that need to be made to the minutes? Seeing none, the motion, is there any opposition to approving the minutes? Seeing none, the motion passes. We will now take up special order of business. May we have disclosures? Are there any people with disclosures to make tonight? Dan Young.
In the case of S12325 Blueberry Estate Subdivision, my firm has ongoing business relationships with the petitioner's representative. We have no interest in this property, and I can evaluate this fairly and impartially.
Thank you. May I have a motion directing Dan Young to participate in case S12325 Blueberry Estate Subdivision? Kevin Cross moves and Don Porter seconds. Would you, Mr. Cross, like to speak to your motion?
Yes, regarding S12325 Blueberry Estate Subdivision, Dan Young says that he has had current business practices with the petitioner's representative, but he has no financial interest, no personal interest, and can make a non-biased judgment regarding the case. I move that he participate.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or findings? Is there anyone opposed to directing Dan Young to participate? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. Dan Young, you are directed to participate in case S12325. Are there any other disclosures this evening? Okay. We will now take up the informational items from February 21st, 2017 and March 30th, 2017. They are action summaries that have taken place in the last month. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Dan Young moves and Don Porter seconds. Is there any request to remove any item from the consent agenda? Is there any opposition to approving the consent agenda? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. Platting Board meets each month on the first and third Wednesday except holidays as regular meetings. If the Platting Board fails to complete its agenda for any regular meeting, the Board carries over the remainder of the agenda to the following meeting. The procedure by which the public may speak at the Platting Board is after the staff presentation is complete on public matters, I will ask for public testimony on an issue. People wishing to testify will follow the time limits established in the Commission Rules of Procedure. The petitioner will speak first. They will get 10 minutes. They may use part of their time in rebuttal. Representatives of groups such as community councils and PTAs are given 5 minutes. Individuals have 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the board. You may only testify once on any issue unless you were questioned by the board. We will now turn to the public hearings and take up the first matter, case S12313. May I have a motion to postpone case S2313? Kevin Cross moves, and Don Porter seconds. Would you like to speak to your motion, Mr. Cross?
Regarding case S12313, postponed indefinitely regarding Burlwood subdivision lots 1 through 4, as requested by the petitioner Spinell Homes. Just give them the prior time in order to meet their requirements.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to the motion on the floor? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. We'll now turn to case S12325, Blueberry Estates subdivision. May we have staff's presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request for subdivision of 2 tracts of land into 16 lots and 2 tracts of land. Petitioner is seeking approval of this preliminary plat for 60 months to allow development to occur between 2017 and 2022. The petition site is located north and south of Honey Bear Lane, east of Black Bear Drive, and west of Snow Bear Drive in Anchorage. The property is zoned R10SL with special limitations per Assembly Ordinance 8421. The special limitations imposed on the property require a minimum lot size of 54,450 square feet. Each lot within the subdivision meets the minimum lot size and width required by the R10SL zoning district. Honey Bear Lane, there are several issues associated with this subdivision that need to be brought to the board's attention. I'll go through each one of these issues separately. With regard to road improvements and dedication, Honey Bear Lane appears to be a recycled asphalt pavement surfaced road with a width of approximately 16 feet where it is an internal to the proposed subdivision. This does not meet the municipal requirements for a local street in a Class B area. Municipal code requires that a local street in a Class B area be strip paved. This section of Honey Bear Lane, where it is internal to the proposed subdivision, is not located within an established road service area. It is adjacent to the Bear Valley Limited Road Service Area, and Bear Valley Limited Road Service Area does not currently maintain any asphalt surfaces within the municipality. The petitioner shall resolve with private development and traffic departments the possible need to construct municipal standards a 20-foot wide recycled asphalt pavement surface street, 2 10-foot wide travel lanes with 2-foot shoulders on both sides with drainage ditches as shown in municipal typical section 20-1 of the Municipality of Anchorage standard specifications. Honey Bear Lane, internal to this subdivision, is not currently within a 60-foot wide public use easement, and as a result of this action, Honey Bear Lane will be dedicated as right-of-way. With regard to trail and access to Chugach State Park, the Chugach Access Plan is not an adopted official plan of the municipalities. It is, however, a state technical reference to be consulted during reviews for platting actions on parcels that abut Chugach State Park per Chapter 2108. In review of the Chugach Access Plan for this section of the park interface, it should be noted that the Chugach Access Plan does not highlight areas of high suitability or unsecured or secured access priorities. There are secured park access points otherwise noted in the general vicinity. The north and northeast areas of the parcel are relatively steep sloped, which may have influenced the plan not showing the new access locations within this subdivision. The Hillside District Plan shows a conceptual secondary access trail here within the subdivision and a priority trailhead site in the adjacent Heritage Land Bank parcel to the site's northeast. From planning's perspective, the ideal source for preserving future access to the state park with the proposed plat would be to require a road dedication connecting Snow Bear Drive, where it now ends at the site's east border, through the parcel to the west border of the Heritage Land Bank parcel. This dedication would accommodate and connect public road and pedestrian access to the Heritage Land Bank parcel, ensuring its viability for future development and public access through this parcel to Chugach State Park. Wetlands and streams, there appear to be several water bodies present within this plat boundary. Watershed Management Services request that field verification be done to more accurately identify the locations of these features. Likewise, wetlands have been identified and are located within tracts A and B of this plat boundary. These tracts are considered wetland tracts and should not be developed in the future, and as such, staff is recommending that a plat note be added to the plat that states, quote, tracts A and B are considered wetlands tracts and neither shall be developed in the future. In terms of our adopted plans, this preliminary plat appears to generally conform to the goals and policies of the Hillside District Plan, the Anchorage 2020 Comprehensive Plan, and the Chugach Access Plan. The Hillside District Plan clearly depicts future road and trail access via this subdivision to the Heritage Land Bank parcel located east of the petition site, and as a result of that, staff is recommending that the petitioner be required to dedicate by document a 60-foot wide public use easement from Snow Bear Lane to the Heritage Land Bank parcel east of the subject property. So with that being said, staff would like to recommend approval of the phasing plan and approval of the plat for 60 months subject to the conditions listed on pages 19, 20, and 21 of, actually in 22 of your staff packet, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have. Thank you.
Yes, through the chair. Dave, you mentioned Snow Bear Lane, but yet I see on the plat it's Snow Bear Drive on both sides. Is there a Snow Bear?
Through the chair, Mr. Porter, that was a mistake on my part. It should be Drive. My apologies.
Thank you.
Any further questions for staff at this time? Yes, Don.
Could you identify which are the public parcels that you're saying that there should be access to?
Through the chair, Mr. Porter, if I may direct your attention to page 25 of the staff packet. East of this subdivision, you'll see a Honey Bear Lane with a subdivided neighborhood. This is the Stoll subdivision. Directly north of that is a parcel owned by the Heritage Land Bank. This is the parcel that I'm referring to.
Thank you.
Any further questions? May we have petitioner's representative?
Thank you. My name is Tom Dreher, and I'm with, excuse me?
That's fine. Did you want to reserve some time for rebuttal?
I'll reserve the rest of the time that I have.
Very well.
Take too long up front here. Good evening. My name is Tom Dreher. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, planning staff, and concerned members in the audience. Also with me today is Brandon Marcotte of Triad Engineering, if you have any civil engineering type questions. And the representative of the owner, Ron Alvin, is also here if you need any questions from him. He represents the Maryland Newell Living Trust, who's the actual owner of this property. Like staff said, this is 160 acres, 16 lots and 2 tracts. We've done complete soil tests with Pannone Engineering. The wetland study was done by Hemlock Scientific, Mr. Pat Athey. He's done a full report on the wetlands. And we have tracted out the wetlands. It seems to be the preferred method of doing it. We're showing all the, showing all the creeks on there. Of course, we're aware of all the setbacks that will have to be abided by. They're not actually shown on the preliminary plat or the final plat because they're left on as a note to, where it says you have to apply by the Title 21 standards, because as they change, they don't want a set dimension on the plat because they may get bigger, make it smaller. Anyway, we met with Bear Valley Community Council on October 12th, 2016 at the community meeting, and we met a couple times with Rabbit Creek Community Council since then, November 10th and March 9th. One thing on page 87 has the correct drawings for the soils test. Looks like the drawing up in front of the report got folded up and then copied. So anyway, if you need to refer to it, it's on page 87. And with that, we're fine with all the conditions. We've gone back and forth quite a bit with community members and HOA members, Stoli, Grandview HOA members on who's going to maintain the road and things like that. We've gone back and forth with staff quite a bit too. So with that, I'll leave myself available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have any questions for petitioner's representative at this time? Kevin Cross.
Excellent, thank you. Actually, quite a bit of public testimony having to deal with primarily traffic and drainage. It's my understanding the road is currently 16 feet wide, going to 20 feet wide. Does with shoulder, does that mean to 20 feet wide with shoulder? Is that 25 and then additional for a shoulder? Or can you help?
So there'd be 20 feet of 4-inch wrap. Wherever it's less than that, then we'd have to expand on that.
Excellent.
And there's a full drainage impact analysis. I think it starts on page 85.
That was the other issue having to do with drainage, which brings me up to my next question, having to do with planning department memorandum. I believe that's page 207. And they say, we're unclear whether the applicant has filed for a jurisdictional delineation for wetlands. Is that part of your approval process?
It's part of the approval process. Our wetland report starts on page 88. And since we're actually not going to touch the wetlands, we don't need to have a permit for that because we're not going to disturb it.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
That's why we tracted it out.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions at this point? Thank you.
You're welcome.
This time we'll open the meeting to public testimony. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this matter? Thank you. And your name is?
My name is Lori Holland, like the country.
How do you spell the last name?
Holland, Holland.
Thank you.
I was on the Section 36 Master Plan Citizens Advisory Committee, Bear Valley Community Council Vice Chair in 08 and 09. I'm a trail user and advocate. I want to reiterate, in addition to my written comments, the inappropriateness of the proposed priority trailhead on the HLB property and planning and zoning staff recommendations for a 60-foot easement for future road construction, and request access to CSP be provided via the northern section line, utilizing the priority trailhead parking at Section 36, which is also supports a connectivity from the Section 36 Master Plan. The other priority parking there is shown on the Hillside District Plan also. The number one reason is the CSP access plan adopted in 2013 does not support a priority trailhead or any trailhead at this location, as is a recommendation in Title 21 and the Hillside District Plan. And number 2 is the Hillside District Plan's own policies, which are being used to justify the party trailhead, don't support a party trailhead at this location for things such as visual impact of construction on identified prominent ridge lines, the HDP to diffuse and spread use and reduce crowding at any one location. This new trailhead is within 1,500 feet of an existing CSP trailhead, virtually bookending the Stoling neighborhood with public parking areas. The HDP says direct traffic toward main road network and away from local roads. All of the traffic for this 30 to 150 car parking area will go through all of the Bear Valley local roads, not just up in our neighborhood. The HDP party says party trailhead sites large enough to buffer private landowners. The HLB lot is big, but if you look at a topo map or Google Earth, you can see that only a very small portion is developable. The other dives down to Rabbit Creek on the other end, which would mean this parking lot would be within 150 feet of a neighbor's house. HDP says party trailhead should be located on public lands that can handle larger crowds, relieve pressure on neighborhoods to meet demands for access. It's in the same neighborhood as the existing. There's no relief there. HTP said the correct response to problems like the Grandview trailhead is to rapidly add additional access points in other parts of the hillside. The proposed party trailhead is in the same neighborhood. And lastly, well, not quite lastly, HTP says that it needs to maintain the area's visual character. A mountainside switchback road and an alpine ridgetop large parking facility will ruin the visual character of the valley.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Lori Holland? Don Porter has a, Ms. Holland? I have a question from Don Porter for you.
Ms. Holland, you went through quite a long thing, and I'm not entirely up on all of the issues, and so it sounds to me like you don't like where they're saying to put the parking lot. Is that? Could you sum it up for me?
The priority trailhead shown on the HLB lot will never be built by Chugach State Park. The access road up to it would be up to a steep switchback. It's virtually unbuildable. There are other points within the, on the northern border that would be more appropriate for pedestrian access.
So how does this relate to this requested plat?
To meet Title 21 requirements for access to use the existing 33-foot easement on the northern border and not require a road 60-foot easement up to the HLB lot. I have a substantial backup that would support what I'm saying about the developability of the lot and the impact on the neighborhood and the bookending of the neighborhood with parking areas.
Okay, well, in the interest of time, I have a feeling there's probably going to be other people discussing this. So we'll keep in mind what you've said and we'll move on.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ms. Holland at this time? I have a question for you, Ms. Holland. If we were to accept this plat with the sole exception of not dedicating the 60-foot right-of-way, you'd be happy?
I would be happy, but knowing that there is another priority trailhead on the border of Section 36 and connectivity in Section 36 desirable up into the park, that we would still want to see, that there would be access along the border of this property into the park.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak this evening?
Hi, I'm Sean Holland.
Okay.
And I left some comments online, and I think all those are still valid. I don't think I really change any of them. We were given the opportunity to meet with the petitioner, some of the neighbors there, and so we appreciate that opportunity. And I think they're pretty aware of any of the concerns that I have. The history is that, our homeowners association maintains that small piece of road. We've had 2 projects in the last 10 years to put RAP and do some drainage improvements there. And so we support the, not requiring pavement there. I think with the additional traffic, there are some spot repairs that are probably going to be required. They'll be pretty evident when the breakup comes and you can see the road. One of the things that they should consider when they're looking at those spot repairs is that the heaviest traffic comes during construction of all those, 10 or 14 lots, whatever it is. The roads in Bear Valley in general aren't built to withstand heavy loads, and that road isn't any different, although it performs a little bit better than some down below. Based on, staff's recommendation, reiterating what Lori said of the requiring that 60-foot easement up to the HLB lot, I get my opinion generally is that if the city's going to require subdivisions to include those, access to the park, is that they should also consider, not for the petitioner, but for the city or the state, improving all the roads that lead up to the park, if that makes any sense. Starting at Kings Way, those are all gravel roads that are, built with minimal base and just can't handle as much traffic as, a 40-car parking lot is going to draw up to that area. And, even now with our small parking area up there, we see that 9 months out of the year, the park traffic kind of far exceeds the residential traffic. And I just see that as a flaw in the Hillside District Plan. And, my other notes here are pretty much along the line of what Lori said. There's contradictions in that plan that we're already inequitably impacted by the park access. To bookend our small neighborhood is pretty excessive. And the HDP even recognizes that our neighborhood is a problem, and their solution is to spread out access, and that's written in the plan, but yet they still propose that large parking lot to the north of us. I think that's all I have, other than I guess I did skip my bullet point about the drainage. Our drainage is working pretty well. Our ditches and our culverts are pretty much at capacity. Those culverts are as old as the subdivision, so they're 30 years old. So they'll take a little bit.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Sean Holland? Dave Whitfield.
Through the chair, I didn't have any questions. I just wanted to make a comment because I think it's important to clarify the reason behind this 60-foot public use easement. The intent is not to necessarily provide access to what would be a future parking lot. That certainly could happen, or to provide access to the park, but rather if an easement or a dedicated right-of-way is not provided, Heritage Land Bank will not have access to their parcel. So the primary intent behind this recommendation is to provide Heritage Land Bank with access to their parcel, not to provide access to some future parking lot. Now, certainly that is a possibility. It's shown in the Hillside District Plan. It's not identified on the Chugach Access Plan, which I will say the planning department tends to believe that because the Chugach Access Plan is a more recent plan, it may have more validity than does the Hillside District Plan. But I need to emphasize the fact that the recommendation for a 60-foot wide public use easement accessing the Heritage Land Bank parcel is primarily so that Heritage Land Bank's parcel is not landlocked and that they're provided suitable access. It was a request of the Rabbit Creek Community Council. It was a request of the Heritage Land Bank, and it was deemed important by the planning department. So that is why the planning department and staff are recommending that easement be dedicated. Thank you.
And Kevin Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. You state here that it's the Grandview subdivision HOA currently maintains the road and has invested over $100,000 in the surface of Honey Bear Lane over the last 5 years to achieve a low-maintenance, low-dust road service. Can you help me understand what area your homeowners association is covering? Is it just the furthest east section of Honey Bear Lane, Honey Bear Circle, or is it more predominantly down near Black Bear Drive? What is the area of your homeowners association?
There's a row of houses that goes up along Honey Bear Lane that starts, if you're starting to the west working east, that last house before the long stretch of no houses is where we start our maintenance, and we maintain Honey Bear Lane from there, Honey Bear Circle, and then the 2 Snow Bears.
Okay. So there's only, it looks like once we get above this area of where we're talking here, it's about, what, 12 houses?
Yeah, probably.
And it just covers those 12?
Yeah, I mean, there's undeveloped lots, and we charge them for
So
being part of the HOA.
Lots are playing towards
Right.
it. And so the area that you've invested in, is that specifically that area in where your homeowners, are you talking this section of road that's gone through the petitioner's site you've invested in?
That 100, it's more than 100 grand, but it's throughout the whole road system. But, below the gate, where we're talking about here is, I would say roughly half of that investment, so 50 or 60 grand. So.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Any further questions?
Can I make one comment to the staff comment?
Well, I got a question for you from Mark.
Okay, sorry.
Through the chair and to Mr. Holland, staff kind of answered my main question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the roads outside the area are not part of this plat, so they can't be put on the developer to improve that.
And I wouldn't suggest that, no.
And the 60-foot easement is a good means for that future development of that road, because right now, if it was platted as a right-of-way, then it's fixed. Mm-hmm. And as they go through the process of a trail, whatever they do with that heritage land bank property, it can be modified. That easement will be worked out with the planning department and right-of-way and everything of where that should be alignment and the lowest grades, and et cetera there. So the easement's a good idea, and it is fixed. They do have to put that in there because they cannot landlock that HLB lot at this time. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that and kind of highlight what staff recommended.
Right.
Thank you.
That's not how I read the staff's comment or the comments from Rabbit Creek Community Council. I read it, I guess in reference to that, accessing that trail, future potential trailhead through what's shown in the HDP. I wasn't suggesting that the petitioner should improve all those roads. I'm just saying that's a flaw in the HDP, is that, they designate all these future spots, but they don't consider the roads that are leading to those spots, and so they get ignored. And if funding gets identified, it's not going to go to fix those roads first. It's going to go to develop the trailheads, and it's a little backwards.
If the roads are outside the platted area, the developer is not required to improve them.
Right. And I'm not saying that they should be. So yeah. I'm saying that the city or it goes to the state park, so it's the city or the state park that should take care of those roads before future trailheads are developed.
There's many of them up there that need that, but in this situation, we're only making a decision on the existing road inside the platted area.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name's Dan Toomey, and I've been asked by the Stoley Homeowners Association to represent the HOA tonight, and I am requesting 5 minutes.
And could you spell your last name?
Toomey. Toomey.
And which?
The Stoley Homeowners Association.
Homeowners, thank you.
Plus those lots in Grandview that are owned by Mr. Sean McLaughlin.
Okay.
Good evening to the board and Mr. Chairman. I live in Stoley Lot 6, Block 3, and I have done so since the fall of 1994. Stoley subdivision was platted in 1981, and the first home was constructed starting in 1984. In my 22-plus years, I have witnessed 3 of the 5 heaviest snowfalls, as well as the lightest or lowest snowfall. On at least 16 occasions, our anemometer has registered winds greater than 100 miles an hour, maxing out at 129. While it has not happened in the last 5 years or so, I have had to manage 8-foot wind drifts that are packed so dense that we've had to close the road until heavy equipment can be brought in. The longest closure has been 4 days. If we go to work, we ski down and hike up, or we stay home and work from home. I've seen the groundwater erupt in various places on the south side of Honey Bear, comes out of the cut bank at a different place every year, depending upon the snow load and the rapidity of melt. I've seen the road fail, necessitating that we bring in bulldozers, graders, and backhoes with material to solve the failure. The proposed Blueberry subdivision, to be created from land that was part of the Newell Homestead, will be subject to many of these challenges. The roads in the Stoley subdivision on the western boundary of Blueberry Plat are managed by the HOA, as mentioned earlier. We levy dues in the amount of $150 to $300 a year to maintain the road. It should be noted that the alders provide a needed windbreak as well as soil and water management. Builders of roads and home need to be aware that the alpine nature of the environment should not be discounted. Many of the homes have required retrofits to overcome design or construction deficiencies due to snow or wind loading. Our goal is to be good neighbors. And I think that's a good segue into what we see as residents and owners. We see the potential for 34 new homes, 9 in Stoley, 11 in Grandview, and 14 in Blueberry. We see a road infrastructure already stressed, as many have already commented. We see the need for a second road for access and egress is critical. The original plat in 1981 showed a Snow Bear connection through the Blueberry proposal, a connection now removed. In light of the 34 potential homes and a possibility of 30 to 150 car parking lot, we feel this decision should be revisited. We see the need for added parking almost every day. The 5-car parking lot at the Honey Bear Lane cul-de-sac overflows and parking becomes random. Signage is ignored. The size of the parking was set and consistent with CSP's, Chugach State Park's, goal of multiple small neighborhood access points. Parking in the center of the cul-de-sac is prohibited, as is street parking on roads less than 24 foot wide and within 75 feet of intersections by a municipal code. These are ignored. Response from APD is measured in days, not hours. I'm going to refer the board, please, to case S10811-4, Grandview subdivision, dated November 3, 2004, which set the parking limits for access through an easement to Chugach State Park. We see seasonal fire danger and the need for large vehicle access that is ignored, as is CSP trail closed. During the McHugh Creek fire, our subdivision was on evacuation alert, yet still many ventured up, parked illegally, and hiked past the trail closed signs to get a view of the fire from the top of the ridge. We see the southern terminus of Snow Bear Drive being used as a de facto park access point, even though it's totally privately owned land as part of the Grandview subdivision. No trespassing signage and metal posts and concrete footings have been destroyed.
Thank you.
I only got about 10 more minutes.
I understand. Perhaps we'll have some questions for you.
Please.
Do we have any questions for Dan Toomey?
Thank you, Mr. Walker. I'll talk faster next time.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak? Oh, we won't start the clock till we're done with the time, the naming part.
My name is Angie Pinsonneau, Pinsonneault, and I'm a resident in the Stoley subdivision.
Are you speaking on your behalf or on behalf of a group?
On my own behalf.
Thank you.
We are a community neighborhood that's very close-knit. We're not necessarily opposed to new neighbors or a new subdivision, but I don't believe that adequate attention has been given to not only Honey Bear Lane, but also the lower, what we call Bear Roads, Snow Bear, Black Bear, and Honey Bear. I'm not an engineer, so I can't talk about road grades and road surfaces, but it's obvious to me that Kingsway and the connecting Bear Roads are already maxed out in their capacity. The Bear Roads are plagued by overuse, erosion during summer rains, icing, drifting, and ice damming during the long winter season. They are steep roads with sharp switchbacks that frequently result in traffic jams as neighborhood drivers attempt to navigate during subpar driving conditions. It is my understanding that the Blueberry subdivision intends to utilize the existing roads, not counting the homes below the end of the Lursus service area on Honey Bear Lane. The Stoley subdivision has 11 existing homes. There are an additional 9 undeveloped lots in that subdivision. There are 11 undeveloped lots in the adjacent Grandview subdivision. And if I understood correctly tonight, the Blueberry subdivision proposes adding an additional 16 lots. I do not see how these roads can reasonably sustain the additional load that up to 36 additional households will require. In addition to the sheer traffic load proposed to be added to these roads, there is the question of water flow and drifting patterns. Even with the alder cutbacks performed for perk testing this past fall, the drifting pattern across Honey Bear Lane changed. One can only imagine what effect would be experienced with a mass removal of alders from across the stretch of alpine hillside. I'd also like to echo the testimony already given by Lori and Sean and Dan. And if I understood Lori correctly, there's already access to the HLB parcel through the Section 36 access point further down the hill, and I guess I'm confused as to why an additional easement would be needed to access that and where the city would propose that people park in order to use that easement. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Angie Pinsonneau? Mark Seward.
Through the chair. I'm sorry, were you referring to Angie? I didn't catch. Okay. The 33-foot section line is normally when access is allowed, it has to be physically and legally. And that section line, it would be for vehicle traffic, it physically couldn't be built. It could be legally there, and it could be for foot traffic, but it would never maintain traffic for vehicles. So that's one of the reasons they're requiring that 60-foot alternative access to that HLB lot, is that no road can really physically be built up that 33-foot section line at this time. Thank you.
Can I again echo what Lori said, in that there's already undue stress placed on the neighborhood through the existing trail access, and I don't understand why vehicular access is required when there's plenty of room for parking in Section 36 and adequate foot trail access.
Title 21 requires legal and physical, so it has to be able to maintain a vehicular access to the property. They're not just foot traffic, but a vehicle traffic. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Angie? Thank you. Do we have anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
My name is David Ranta, last name spelled R-A-N-T-A. I'm a resident of the Stoley subdivision, Lot 1, Block 1. I tend to agree with what the other folks from our subdivision have already commented on and talked about. One question that was asked of Lori was if that easement, 60-foot easement, was not put into the plat. Would you be fine with that? My answer is yes, I'd be fine with that. I have no problem with the new subdivision being built there. I think, the more people up there, the better as far as neighbors. I do have some issues regarding the road, Honey Bear Lane, that we, as a homeowners association, do maintain. And I'm sure once it's platted and if approved that 14 houses aren't going to be built simultaneously. I'm sure they'll be staggered as they sell. But I do have some reservations as to whether the additional traffic on Honey Bear Lane, if that road surface would be able to sustain constant heavy equipment on the road. If a house is built one year, 2 houses built the next year, that's going to be more traffic on there. And if multiple projects are going at the same time, I can just see that road just absolutely being tore up, and I'm not sure who is responsible for that. I'm not going to go into any of the other roads down below. I think that's been covered by the other folks here. But I don't have a problem with the subdivision being platted. I do have issues with the additional traffic brought to the roads and how they're going to be maintained.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Dave Ranta?
Yeah.
Kevin Cross.
Dave, just for clarification, do you live at the upper section of Honey Bear Lane, or are you closer to Black Bear Circle?
I live on Snow Bear Drive, Lot 1, Block 1.
Yeah, the switchback right there.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no. I live in the Stoley subdivision.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, up at the top.
Oh, excellent. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Do we have anyone else from the public that wishes to speak this evening?
Hi, my name's Carla Ranta, and I live in Stoley, Lot 1, Block 1, R-A-N-T-A.
Thank you.
As everybody else has said, the access to our area is very challenging as it is. Adding all those additional homes and additional cars makes it more challenging. We have a hard time navigating through a narrow road that with snow gets really mushy and you need the whole road by yourself to get through. And in the summertime, it's very washboardy and the road just goes away sometimes and you have to drive up where there's not really a road just to get around the big holes to get home. So having more cars is not a good thing. The trailhead that we currently have at the top for the 5-car parking is never 5-car parking in the summer. There's 150 cars sometimes. They're parked all down the road in all sorts of ways. Makes it very difficult to get home. You add another access, whether it be pedestrian, they have to get there somehow. Where are they going to park their cars? And if it's a vehicular access and they park there, then we get all the crimes that we already have. We've had a woman that was raped up there. We've had a major break-in. We have syringes. We have condoms. We have underwear. We have garbage. All things from people that are not good stewards of our society. APD, I know they have bigger fish to fry and bigger problems than that, but they can't respond up there. And if they don't have anything else going on in the city and they come up there, the people that are up there, you can see APD coming for 3 miles. So they finish doing their crime or whatever lawless activity they want to do, and they start down the hill, and APD has no way of knowing which car to stop, who it is, what's going on. So from my perspective, adding more people up there with no way to manage that is not very realistic. The subdivision itself, I have no problem with that. I do have a problem with the access point into the subdivision. I don't think coming in off of Honey Bear is a good idea. I think the lower Snow Bear is a better option, just because our switchbacks are so challenging as they are.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Carla Ranta? Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this matter tonight?
Hello, my name is Jim Johnson. I live at 9200 Honey Bear Lane. Is that better? I just want to state to everyone that I'm not against the subdivision either, but I do have three primary concerns. My first concern is that the number of lots proposed in the development, approximately 15 to 16, is overly high for this area. There are currently 35 households that access their property via Snow Bear Drive off of Kingsway Drive. The only access to 14 of these proposed subdivision lots is via this same route. As such, the proposed subdivision represents a 40% increase in the number of potential households with their only means of access through the Snow Bear Drive bottleneck. In the event of wildfire or other natural disaster emergencies, it will become increasingly difficult to evacuate or provide adequate emergency access as the number of households increase. Furthermore, during the months of October to May, steep road grades covered with snow and ice create difficult and often hazardous driving conditions. Each winter, the route to the proposed subdivision becomes impassable for several private vehicles, especially at the intersections of Kingsway and Snow Bear Drives, Snow Bear and Black Bear Drives, and Black Bear Drive and Honey Bear Lane. Vehicle collisions, as well as vehicles sliding into ditches and onto private property, occur every winter, and in some cases, these events may block road access for extended periods of time. The proposed subdivision will substantially increase commuter traffic leading to the increased likelihood of accidents and injury. Lastly, Honey Bear Lane from the lower to upper ends of the proposed subdivision becomes increasingly narrowed by accumulating snow. Increased traffic on slippery, narrow roads is a hazard to local pedestrians. Please consider reducing the number of lots in the subdivision or require that an alternate route of access be developed. Number two, the roads that will be used to access this proposed subdivision are steep, poorly constructed, and subject to erosion, potholing, washboarding, and dust. The additional traffic associated with the proposed development will exacerbate these issues. I request that the developer be required to upgrade these three roads to mitigate the effects of the additional traffic. Specifically, I request the ditches be redug and backfilled with large diameter clean rock to facilitate drainage. The roads be regraded to establish ground, and the roads be capped with compacted recycled asphalt product. For reasons mentioned above, I request that the developer sufficiently widen Honey Bear Lane to ensure safe travel for drivers and pedestrians during winter months. These upgrades will alleviate safety concerns as well as minimizing the potential negative effects to these roads and the additional maintenance costs associated with this proposed development. Lastly, because the entire access to the proposed subdivision occurs through the existing Bear Valley LURSA, but the proposed subdivision would not be included in the Bear Valley LURSA, I recommend that this proposed subdivision be required to upgrade the roads within the subdivision to existing code.
Thank you.
And for members to be become part of LURSA.
Do we have any questions for Jim Johnson? Kevin Cross.
Thank you, Jim. You said that you felt there was too many houses for being developed in this area that would be too much of an impact. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is your number one complaint? Under the current zoning that requires a little over 56,000 square feet, how would you feel if each of these lots on average was more than twice the suggested square footage?
And how that affect the number of overall parcels in the subdivision?
Yeah, and it's interesting, and the reason I ask is that these lots that are, and I think that's important to note, these lots on average are over twice the size of all the surrounding lots the way they've subdivided it. So, and I guess we'll talk to the petitioner. However, the density on this particular plat that I'm looking at is over twice the size of what's allowed under current zoning. how much larger or how many houses do you feel that would is a safe bet, and what are we basing that decision on?
Well, my understanding is that the lot size is based on other mitigating factors.
Can I get you to use the microphone?
My understanding, uneducated understanding about this is that the lot size is based on environmental features such as wetland, the amount of wetland within these parcels or surrounding the parcels, as well as slope. And so, yeah, they are large lots, but they have to be, I guess, to meet, the sort of environmental requirements. And in terms of the number of lots from 16, I would be happy with, half of that. I'm concerned, like everybody else here, that the increased number of residents up there will only lead to increased problems, primarily access issues and safety issues, and then road degradation that I'm not sure who's going to pay for or who's going to manage.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this matter tonight?
I have a couple of things you're going to have to share. I hope you don't mind.
Your name is?
I'm Diane Holmes. Many adopted plans and codes require and address the requirements for access on all plats and replats. The location of this Blueberry plat is between the undeveloped Section 36 Park on the west and Chuget State Park and HLB and the Rabbit Creek Greenbelt adjacent to the east. And this is an incredible opportunity to provide access between all these parks. It's no secret that residents are desperate to get to Wilderness. And the CAP and the Hillside District Plan calls for more frequent and smaller trailheads. It's also no secret that the small 5-car parking lot at the end of Honey Bear has caused issues with the local residents because it's too small and the road to it is horribly steep and substandard. I have made a couple of recommendations in my comments. One, that this 4-phase development be done together now, at least for access, pedestrian and road. I also recommended that the undeveloped Section 36 master plan, which calls for a parking area very near the beginning of Newell Road, be considered as a trailhead, with trail access then proceeding along the north flank of this plat to join up with HLB land and Chuget State Park. But the north section line is not and cannot be used as a trail. It has been determined by a professional trail designer who I took to view it as impossible to do. I also have had 15 years of trail construction and design in the Rabbit Creek Greenbelt. But I'm told the developer won't compromise on this north flank acreage to this alternative access that would help avoid residential problems. Pedestrian access is a requirement by you. And the variety of parks adjacent east and west makes this plat incredibly important. Any easement that you may grant should be survey flagged and signed, because we've seen down the road too many problems when this is not done elsewhere. The condition for access does exist, as does the alternative to get to HLB land. I'd also suggest That's it. That's it. I thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Ms. Holmes?
You can see how steep it is on that eastern side. I've marked the different parks. If you have any questions, I can explain it.
Ms. Welton?
Yes, thank you. And I'm sorry if I missed it, but what is your suggested alternative?
Why did I?
No, what is?
I don't know. The alternative is to use the northern part of this plat, not the north section line, but the flank. I don't know if you can see that in the picture. A little farther down the hill would be suitable for pedestrian access to get up to the Heritage Land Bank and Chugach State Park area. If the developer would consider designing all of the access, all the roads, at least rough them in, potentially a separated path could be provided for along some of these roads. It obviously will be on the north side of this plat. Obviously, some of the Newell Road would have to be used if access was pedestrian access was given. There would have to be cooperation on that. But there are alternatives. And Honey Bear, just because there's a 5-car parking lot there, there is the requirement for more access, obviously, to Heritage Land Bank. And Heritage Land Bank does consider this to probably be part of the Chugach State Park in the future. Did I explain it well enough? I really think you guys should come and tour the area. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it.
Don Porter.
Ms. Holmes, to the chair, could you enlighten me on where this 5-car parking lot is? I'm just dying to know.
I think it's just off the picture.
Is it at the end of Snow Bear Drive? Well, I mean, I'm trying to relate it to the plat. Honey Bear, Snow Bear. It's off. It's right here somewhere off the plat. Okay, thank you.
I was wanting to, could you come up and draw a line where you'd like to have this access? Where are you thinking it should go? Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Walker, can you project that picture?
Can I what?
Project it so we can all see it.
I don't have that technology available to me here, I don't think. Can you turn on that projector there? And basically, you can see up there, she's having it originate somewhere on Newell Drive and following the contour lines into the, perhaps along the existing roadway that goes to the existing structures in the plot, and then cutting across to the what is it, the HSB lot, HLB lot, without crossing any of the wetlands. Of course, I don't think they've marked any of the wetlands that aren't in the plat that they were wanting to work on, but thank you.
It could go up on the ridge line at some point, too.
Any further questions? Is there anyone else that wishes to speak at this meeting?
Hello, my name is Nancy Pease. I'm the designated speaker for the Rabbit Creek Community Council, which I'm a board member. So if I need 5 minutes, I'd like to request that.
Thank you. Hang on 1 minute.
Page 215 of your packet includes the Rabbit Creek Communities Council's comments. So I won't go over them verbatim, but I would like to touch on a few of the comments raised here tonight. It's the position of the Community Council that the 60-foot wide public easement is needed. It is part of 2 detailed adopted municipal land use plans, the Hillside District Plan, as well as the Anchorage Bowl Natural Resources Facilities and Parks Plan. The Chugach State Park Access Plan, sometimes referred to as the CAP tonight, is not an adopted plan. It is advisory. It was not adopted by the Muni, despite months of review by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and it was not adopted, my understanding is, by Chugach State Park. It was per a conversation with Superintendent Tom Harrison. They filed it as advisory also. Even if a trailhead is not developed as a result of this 60-foot access, as it's been noted tonight, the Heritage Land Bank parcel is effectively landlocked without this access. As been stated, the northern section line is not buildable because of terrain. We agree with many of the staff conditions, but we like to suggest a couple of additional refinements. We like to ask that at the time of development, or I should say as a condition of this plat, that the easement be identified in the field. It's noted that the terrain is very challenging, and it's important to identify it up front to ensure that it's on buildable terrain, number one. Also, to preclude obstruction of the easement during development. It would be very easy with a 60-foot wide easement to get overburden stored there and create extra burdens when the eventual easement were developed. The cost of the survey is more efficient now. All those lots will be surveyed, and the public easement should be surveyed at the same time. Possibly also, if the easement were identified and surveyed now, it could reduce the number of creek crossings. If you look on the plat right now, lots 11, 12, 13, and 14 are all border on the road and would require very closely spaced driveways. 11 and 12 are to share a driveway, but that's still 3 driveways in a very short section of the stream. But if the easement is to cross there, it should be identified now, and then some of the driveways to those lots can go off of the easement. 1 culvert instead of 3 would comply better with the Hillside District Plan's policies on 14M on calling for, quote, minimal road and driveway disturbance of streams and natural drainage. So again, I'd like the conditions to be amended so that the public easement is identified and surveyed now during the platting process. On the general question of public access to Chugach State Park, it's been noted that there is another legal access. It's only about, I think, 3/8 of a mile away. I'm going to guess at the end of south end of Honey Bear. It's in a cul-de-sac, so there's no privacy for surrounding lots, and it's only 4 or 5 cars. The whole intent of future park access is to make it neighborhood compatible, and that means finding a tract of land that's big enough to have a parking lot that can be buffered, gated, and managed. And now with the park service boundary extending into this area, municipal management would be possible. There was mention of there is access to parking on Section 36, but Section 36 is not connected to Chugach State Park, and that's where most recreationists who come up to this area are trying to get, to Chugach State Park. And finally, I guess, one more addition to the conditions would be to apply condition 15F to the public use easement. Right now, 15F says, prior to issuance of building or on-site permits, the surveyor engineer will flag the stream setback, so there's no encroachment into the stream setback. If some of these lots are developed 5-10 years from now, the original markings of the public use easement might have been obscured, so it would be a good idea to reflag the public use easement before development starts again, so that the easement isn't obstructed and so that the new owner knows where to expect possible future access. It was very interesting to hear Diane Holmes' alternative. I cannot comment on that from Route Creek's perspective because our council just heard about it, but our general emphasis is that there needs to be access, road and trail access to the HLB parcel as part of 2 adopted plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Nancy Pease?
Thank you.
One minute. You proposed that you would like some amendments to conditions. Did you happen to have drafted what those conditions are?
I believe they were addressed in our letter, so that would be the quickest place to get potential wording.
What page was that on?
It's on 215 of your packet. I think it would be addressed on our condition number 5, alignment in the field. Field verification is needed to align trail and road connections in this challenging terrain. And I would just add that field verification and marking should be done as a condition of plat approval.
Thank you.
And then the other one was staff condition 15F, which is on page 22 of your packet. It says that flagging will be done along the stream protection setback, and if that wording could be changed to include the stream protection setback and the public use easement, insert the words public use easement, has been visibly flagged or staked, that would be the second change.
Thank you. Does that raise any questions with anyone else on the board? Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this matter this evening? With that, we will now return to the petitioner's representative. We're setting your clock for you here.
Thank you.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 1 on the HLB access road. I want the neighbors to know that I fought like a badger, and the planning staff can attest to that, to not have to put that on the plat or to grant that easement. But I lost that argument. But more importantly, I think it's important for everybody to realize that just because this public use easement will be on the plat by book and page, that doesn't mean it's going to be built. It's right in Title 21 that it's not required to build roads if they're being created just for access to the Chugach State Park. And I think a lot of the neighbors are 100% correct that this particular area really doesn't make any sense. It was just a little squiggle line on the Hillside District Plan. and I don't think anyone really looked at it that closely. When they made the much larger Chugach access plan, they took that parking area or trailhead off of the plan, which I have a copy of it here. But that's still neither here nor there as far as this plat is concerned. That road would basically go against everything in the Hillside District Plan as far as cuts and fills, because we actually did an engineering study on it. And the road would be 3,500 feet long and probably cost $2 or $3 million, and the cuts and fills would just be ridiculous. But we're stuck with this at this point, and I think the neighbor just should be knowledgeable of the fact that it probably will never be built, and maybe the neighbors need to get together and instead of trying to decide something tonight exactly where it should be, is to get together and just put it where it should be. And that may take some other meetings outside of this plat. On the drainage issue, of course, as you all know, we have about 50 different departments to comply with their specifications, so the drainage situation will be vastly improved through our civil engineering plans. And the same thing with the road. Honey Bear Road will be improved, and any issues they have now will be taken care of, because we still have to go through the public works and get our road design approved. As far as the maintenance of the road, we'll work out the best deal. The engineers have met more than several times with the Stoli Grandview HOA. So that if we're a part of that road improvement district, then it's going to help them out, because we'll be paying into the system on the improvement of the road or the maintenance of a road, where they are already paying for it now anyway, because they're actually improving, what I understand, all the way from our west boundary all the way up to theirs. So now, if we're on board, we'll be helping to pay for that. Density, this area is regulated by Title 21, of course, but also by AO 84-21. It's our 10 SL district. So most of our lots are at least twice the size of what they need to be. And 16 lots and 160 acres, I wouldn't exactly say that's a real dense development. And as far as the phasing goes, I'm not sure how we're affected by that. And I did jot down that they wanted that right away, or the public use easement flagged. Not really sure how valuable that's going to be. Surveying flagging probably won't last all that long up there. But anyway, with that, I think that should do it, and I'll make myself available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Don Porter.
Yes, through the chair. So it seems to me that this access to HLB, which also is going to provide access to Chugach State Park, really, is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, it's providing access to HLB land that's to the north and to the east of our property, off our northeast corner.
So have you considered access from Newell Drive and compared it to access? I mean, I saw, in general sweeping terms, there's two ways to get to the HLB property. One is from Snow Bear Drive on the east end of the property.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
That's the current, what's being proposed, right?
Yes.
So has access through that same access been considered through Newell Drive?
Yeah, it's the advantage to the upper one is that you can see on the plat you have here is that we're starting at elevation 1900. The ridge line is, say, around 2000.
Yes.
If you go down to Newell, you're down at 1550. So you've already gained a lot of elevation to get up to that HLB property by coming along the currently existing Honey Bear Lane and up through that Snow Bear Drive cul-de-sac in Stoley. So it's quite a bit easier to get up to the top of that ridge from the eastern boundary line there with Snow Bear Drive. If you tried to come off of Newell, it wouldn't work because you're starting so much lower, 300-400 feet lower or so, and then getting up to the same point.
Okay. The road service area. So are you going to join one of the existing road service areas, or are you going to make your own?
My name is Brendan Marcotte. That's M-A-R-C-O-T-T with Triad Engineering. The idea when we met with the Stoll Homeowners Association was that we would create the Blueberry Homeowners Association, which is a requirement with this plat, and we would explore the legal options to somehow join with the Stoll Homeowners Association in the maintenance, in the shared maintenance of Honey Bear and presumably the rest of the roads within their development as well. So we wouldn't necessarily be joining or creating our own LRSA. We would like to explore the legal options to join what's already there within Stoll. And as Tom mentioned earlier, basically you'd be adding to the revenue of that homeowners association to be able to maintain those roads.
But you're not ruling out making your own, right?
I believe that's an option. Dave,
can you help us with that?
Through the chair, Mr. Porter, yes. The way that the condition is written and recommended by staff is to allow the petitioner some flexibility in how they maintain the road. There is a requirement for them to participate in maintaining the road, either by annexing into the existing LRSA just downhill of this subdivision, or by they can write it into their homeowner association documents that they shall contribute a dollar amount to the maintenance of the road fronting their properties, which they can work out with the homeowners association for both Stoley subdivision and Grandview, which are currently maintaining that stretch of road fronting this subdivision. So, in other words, if they decide to work with the homeowners of Grandview and Stoley, there'll be more money going into the maintenance of a roadway that those two subdivisions are currently maintaining. If they decide that they want to annex into the LRSA that already exists just downhill of them, then they can do that as well. It's a matter of preference by the property owner. The municipality is willing to hear what they would like to do, and we will work out a resolution. They will have to maintain that road, though, or contribute to it.
Right, I guess, and maybe one of you could answer the question, but my concern is that they would just make their own LRSA and say, well, we're just going to maintain that section of Honey Bear that is fronting on their lot. Is that an option to them?
Through the chair, Mr. Porter, it could be an option to them. I think that right now the owners, property owners within Stoley and Grandview are maintaining that section of roadway that fronts to this subdivision, which is probably not their responsibility. So I think in bringing in these new 16 lots, it's going to help in easing that cost. They could establish their own LRSA. I think I've heard from different people as to what different property owners within both Grandview, Stoley, and then the neighborhood just south of, or I should say just downhill of this subdivision, and there are differing opinions as to what they would like to see. The way that I wrote the condition, and I'm recommending to the Platting Board, is that it provides some flexibility in how they maintain the road. But the assurance must be there that they will contribute to maintaining that road. And that's either by...
That's clear.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm just mulling over and I see now that you have broach that possibility that there are multiple options, including their own, which I see as a less desirable option for the overall health, but that's my opinion. Okay, thank you. I'm being chatty, I apologize.
Dan Young.
Thank you, through the chair, Mr. Dreyer. With regard to flagging the easement in advance, given that we've heard testimony tonight that the winds exceed 100 miles an hour and you have blowing snow, which acts like sandblasting at times, what's the likelihood of flagging that now that the flags would be there when the easement gets built?
Yeah, flagging wouldn't last.
How long do you think it would last? Through a whole season?
I don't know, a couple months. Depends on the windstorms, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Don Porter.
So in the requirements that are stated so far on this road, is it you would define a route, what, to the ridge line and then follow the ridge line into the HLB property? I mean, to me, if you're going to flag something, then you actually have to decide that it's buildable as a roadway in some sort of. So are you going to design a roadway in the 60-foot easement, or is somebody going to do that and then put that on a map somewhere?
One of the conditions was that we design it and make sure that it can work, and we actually have already done that. So, yeah, so we will know that a road could be built there. Going to be steep, because we had to go. I mean, we're within specifications, but it will be like 9% or so.
Thank you for indulging me on that.
Yeah, and I have a picture if you guys want to take a look at it.
I would like to see a picture of that.
Well, can you just put it up on the screen?
While you're working on that, we're going to take a short recess. Now back on the record.
May I?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Dreyer, do you have one of the two lights on that are reflecting? If you turn the other light on, now you have them both off. You should be using reflected light rather than transmitted.
I mean, from these two?
Yes, yes.
Turn off the bed light.
Turn off the bed light, what that's transmitting through the document, and then turn the other two, the upper two on. Okay.
So,
We're not a light engineer. I mean, he's infrastructure.
Now just focus.
I.
There you go.
That's a little better.
Yeah, it's a little better.
So,
Can you pull it so it shows the next snowball? Okay. So it's basically a switch.
Yes, one big switchback.
takes up the entire length of that lots out there.
Yeah, it goes all the way up to the northwest corner of that tract, and then switchbacks, and then it goes all the way along the bridge to the east towards the HLB land. I think you have it at 9%.
What elevation line are you coming on when you come back in?
We got a better map here. Let me reference that.
What's the question?
Elevation. The elevation down near the terminus of Snow Bear is about 1,900 feet. And the elevation is about where the road ties into the HLB parcel. It's about 2,050. So 150 feet of relief from top to bottom. I know it's hard to tell, but from where we tie into Snow Bear, the general grade reaches 8 to 9% as you reach the top near the switchback, and then it'll flatten out to more manageable grades in, say, 1 to 5% range. You can see the very large cuts and fills towards the top. The contours stack up real tight as you get up towards the top. This is slopes, I think, far in excess of 30%. So any cut and fills are going to take a while to catch. The same can be said on the backside. I know you can't see it, but maybe there's a topo map in your packet. The backside of that ridge line is actually even steeper than this side. So any road on that side would likely have much more of a challenge.
Is there any area good for putting a parking lot back in there?
I suppose you could. There's a very small portion in the southwest corner of the HLB property that might be, it'd be right on top of the ridgeline. I think that'd be about the only spot for it would be just beyond the edge of the improvements that I'm kind of showing up there. It's not much.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does that show up a little bit better?
Thank you for showing us that so that we could at least understand what we're all talking about in terms of an alignment. And it's obviously with the cuts and fills that you're showing, they would be outside the 60-foot easement, right?
Yes, very much so.
So, needless to say, you can stake the alignment, but it's going to be fairly untraversable by anybody, even possibly hiking, until it would actually be cut out.
Hikers could traverse it, yes.
I'm sorry?
Hikers could traverse it. It's running around a 9% grade. So.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
The matter now rests with the board. May I have a motion to approve the plat, the phasing plan? Don, yes, Don is. Kevin Cross?
To the board, I just want to clarify on this. 15H, the very last provision. Is this worded correctly before I approve it? Tracks A and B are considered wetland tracks and neither shall not be developed in the future?
Through the chair, Mr. Cross, neither shall be developed in the future. My apologies. I probably had a few different iterations of that plat note, and I forgot to
Long list.
remove.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that correction is made prior to.
Don Porter.
Before we get there, honestly, you could lose a whole bunch of words out of H and still get there.
Well, the first part is we are being requested to approve the phasing plan, and so that's all that we need to address the first part. We can talk about all the conditions on the plat subsequently. Dan Young, would you please state your motion?
Yes, in the matter of case S12325, excuse me, Blueberry Estates subdivision, I move for approval of the phasing plan.
Thank you. And do we have a second? Kevin Cross seconds. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Through the chair, not really. I don't understand the phasing plan.
Okay.
Through the chair, could I ask staff to explain it, the phasing
Yes.
plan?
Staff, would you like to explain what it is you've asked for on the phasing plan?
Through the chair, Mr. Young, in order for a plat to be approved for up to 60 months, which the petitioner is requesting with this plat, they have to include a phasing plan. The phasing plan that they've submitted, albeit vague, is a phasing plan. It identifies as the phases that will be developed throughout this subdivision. It is a bit vague in that it gives a very broad timetable for development from 2017 to, I believe, 2022 for all phases, but it is a requirement of the 60-month approval, and as such, the board has to act on the phasing plan. So that's all the information I can give you. If the petitioner's representative wants to speak more about what the phasing plan is and what the timetable for development is, they can do that, but that's all I have.
Thank you.
Through the chair, Mr. Whitfield, what page is the phasing plan on?
Through the chair, it's on page 34 of your staff packet.
Well, it looks like we have, they're proposing 4 phases or 5? Okay. So the sum total of what they've presented as their phasing plan is this one page?
Through the chair, Mr. Walker, yes, this is the one-page phasing plan, correct?
So it doesn't have any dates on it?
Through the chair, Mr. Walker, the dates given for the phasing of the project for all phases is 2017 to 2022.
Okay.
Through the chair, I'd like to speak to my motion in support of the phasing plan, which is on page 34. Some of the text is difficult to read, but there are 4 phases. Phase 1 is in the southwest quadrant. Phase 2 is in the southeast. Phase 3 is in the northeast, and phase 4 is in the northwest. And as I understand it, this is going to be from 2017 to 2020. There's no other time limits on this, and with that understanding, I'm going to support this.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments or findings? Is there any opposition to the proposed phasing plan? Seeing no opposition, then the motion passes. I'd now like to have a motion to approve the plat for 60 months, subject to conditions. Dan Young moves. Could you please state your motion?
Yes, through the chair, in the case of S12325 Blueberry Estates subdivision, I move for approval of the plat for 60 months subject to the following conditions, and those would be conditions number 1 through 15 on pages 19 through 22.
Thank you. And Kevin Cross seconds your motion. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, through the chair, I'm going to support this motion, and we've heard a lot of testimony tonight about traffic and road conditions, not so much about traffic, but as road conditions, and from my understanding, the roads are going to be improved and maintained, so that would resolve the issues of road conditions, or at least on this parcel. We've heard testimony about icing and drainage, and the developer is going to be required to address those. We've heard issues tonight about culverts, and those are part of the requirements of this approval. This approval will resolve with planning and project management and engineering the maintenance of that portion of Honey Bear Road that abuts the subdivision. We've talked tonight about a 60-foot wide public use easement, and the petitioner has shown approximately where that's going to go. And that makes sense that it could be constructed, although the findings are that it probably won't be constructed for quite a while, if ever. Drainage is going to be addressed, which is item number 6. And the water bodies and the streams are item number 7, are being covered. So I'm going to support this motion.
Thank you. Kevin Cross.
Thank you. First, is there any, does a motion need to take place to make corrections to 15H? Is that just, we just make a middle note and it goes in the notes that the double negative there needs to be retracted?
We should delete neither.
Excuse me?
We should delete the word neither.
Yeah. Thank you. So is that a separate motion as far as how do we make sure that gets corrected so that it's
Friendly amendment.
okay? Friendly amendment to 15H, where tracks should read, tracks A and B are considered wetland tracks and shall not be developed in the future.
I think we actually need a full motion to amend. So go ahead and make a motion to amend.
Okay, I would like a motion to amend 15H to correctly read, tracks A and B are considered wetland tracks and shall not be developed in the future.
Thank you. And is there a second on that motion? Has been seconded. Go ahead and hit your motion button, Kevin. And who's the second? Don Porter has seconded. And is there anyone opposed to the motion? Seeing no opposition, that motion passes. Thank you.
All right, well, picking up where I left off in regards why I'm supporting the 5-year preliminary plat approval subject to the 3 pages of conditions. I've heard 4 major concerns come from public testimony: drainage, traffic, burden to the HOA during expense of the road, as well as access to Heritage Land Bank or what they consider to be turnarounds. Those are the primary things that seem to keep coming up. It's important to note that over the next 5 years, what will have to happen is under Section B, Sections 2, 6, and 9, drainage shows up several times, resolved with private development and traffic, the possibility to need to construct municipal standards, 20-foot wide roads. So we know the road width is increasing by 25% with a wrap service, and during that time, 2-foot shoulders on both sides with drainage dishes shown on a typical Section 21 municipal standards specifications. So regarding the drainage, large round rocks, that's being adjusted here. Moving back into B2 and B6, excuse me, B2, 6, and 9. Submit private development for review and approval of comprehensive site drainage and plan to resolve the need for more drainage easements and drainage improvements. And then in 9, regarding the crossing of Little Rabbit Creek, which was brought up by one of our public, I apologize, Mrs. Pease, I believe it was, regarding the minimal impact to Rabbit Creek, dealing with lots 4, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So regarding the drainage, its effect on Rabbit Creek and how these lots are going in, we see that there's multiple departments that will have their fingers in it to make sure that it meets the maximum standards. Additionally, regarding traffic, we've seen that again reiterated in B2 and the 20-foot, the 25-foot increase in width through the petitioner's property to increase traffic and make that easy. We do not have the right to enforce that outside of his property lines, so you understand that doesn't take place here. I would highly encourage you to deal with the municipality on making sure that's taken care of, particularly on the lower roads as it comes up, which goes into section number 3, the HOA. The HOA is under B3. B3 states that they are required to resolve with private development the need to enter into a subdivision agreement with private development for the required public B access improvements, including wrap surface street. So we've heard from the petitioners as well as through the chair here, they will be required to either merge with or develop an HOA and contribute to the road maintenance. I agree that that is definitely a concern, that you would not want to shoulder the burden of the improvements, the additional traffic, or the construction traffic as it merges. So over the next 6 years, I encourage your community councils to participate with the petitioner to make sure that the road conditions are not depleted during construction time. And finally, regarding public access, of course, Heritage Land Bank is required under 21 to have access. We can't landlock it. As well as there was some concern regarding fire and safety. I think the additional turnarounds, the widening of the road will actually create and make it easier for fire trucks, wildland fire management to get into the area to service in case there is an emergency. So based on all the testimony and all the negative, or all the, not negative, all the concerns I heard from the public, I do believe that the provisions are being concerned and met through our municipal departments to address those issues over the 6-year period. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other findings the board would like to offer? Don Porter.
Through some back and forth and some graphical testimony, The petitioner has shown that the reason for the selection of Snow Bear Drive on the east side connection is the most viable to provide the HLB access. There have been suggestions of other alignment, but none of that has really proved out, and certainly that would seem to be even longer and more of a burden upon lot 15 and 16 to switch back and do a whole bunch of other stuff to make the road grade possible. So they've gone to the diligence of actually showing how this would connect and that it's doable. And so that connection at Snow Bear Drive, albeit not as desirable because it goes through Honey Bear Drive and some of those other roads that are already taxed by other users, they've shown that this seems to be the right place at this point in time.
Thank you. Are there any other findings from the board? Is there any opposition to the motion on the floor? Seeing no opposition, the motion passes. Are there any appearance requests this evening? Any other persons to be heard? Any reports? And with that, we will adjourn at 8:25. Well, let me unadjourn you for a minute. Any individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Platting Board takes. Appeal of this decision or any of the conditions is governed by AMC 2111-304, and the decision of the Board at the scheduled public hearing shall become final 7 calendar days after the date the decision is made, on the record, unless a written request is submitted to the Planning Division prior to the expiration of the 7th day to prepare a written decision based upon the record made at the hearing, and request is accompanied by a written notice of intent to appeal. Adoption of the written decision by the Platting Board will become final and become the final appealable decision. Within 20 days of the final appealable decision, an interested party must file with the municipal clerk either a written motion alleging new evidence or changed circumstances pursuant to Anchorage Municipal Code 2111-503, or an appeal of the Board's final appealable decision pursuant to Anchorage Municipal Code 2130. And with that, we are now adjourned.